What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Take 3 podcast. My name is Brandon. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Alex. We're here on a Tuesday morning to talk a little NFC North football. At the top of the division, I think on the fray, if you look at it on paper, it could be kind of interesting for once when you look at Green Bay. The weapons really aren't what they're used to. Devante Adams obviously going to Vegas. Aaron Rodgers sticks around, he gets the bag. But when you look at those receivers, it's like those aren't guys out there that Aaron Rodgers would usually want to run with and usually trust. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Can Allen Lazard suddenly become the guy? Well, I believe they have Sammy Watkins too. Can he actually stay healthy? And then you look on the other side in Minnesota, they finally get an offensive coach. They get rid of Mike Zimmer. His defense has sucked at the end anyway. So it's like, why even keep him around? They bring in Kevin O'Connell, obviously a Rams guy, Sean McVay guy. So we'll see if that can reignite Kirk Cousins and maybe push them another win, get them into the playoffs, and, get the heat off of Kirk. I heard Justin Jefferson. He said this is the type of system guys want to play in. So it seems like he's enjoying it. They still have Dalvin Cook there. And then obviously at the bottom of the division, the Lions and the Bears. I like where the Lions are moving. They went in, added a bunch of weapons, didn't force their hand and go quarterback in this draft, knowing what next year's draft holds, because they probably won't win a ton of ball games, but I think they'll be a little bit better than the Bears at the bottom personally. So, when you look at this division, how do you feel about the NFC North? And how are you doing today?
Doing well. You pretty much nailed it. It's like a two-team race. It feels like the bottom two. They want to just see progress this year. One is definitely better than the other, but the NFC North's an interesting division where I'm excited for it. It's like we're less than a month away from real football. It's getting close, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, exactly. We're less than a month away. We're closing in on the start of the season. So, let's jump into it. The first team obviously on the screen is the Detroit Lions. They went out, added DJ Chark. They drafted Jameson Williams, obviously non-football injury list, got hurt in the championship with Alabama last year. So he's not going to be there to start, but he should be back by, I've heard, October. So when they get him back, he will be a key addition. And then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown still there. Their O-line, not bad. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Big V, not even going to pretend to try to say that name. And then obviously Penei Sewell, who they drafted last year, and TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. So they got guys on offense. I really like that offense. It's really kind of putting it in Jared Goff's hands, giving him one more year, realizing that next year's a good quarterback draft and we can make a move if we need to make a move. And then on the defensive side, their big draft pick, I loved it. At number 2, they get Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. He stays home. Should help their pass rush. Their pass rush desperately needs help. I'll get into that with the second question. But first one is, what can we expect from Jared Goff in Dan Campbell's offense in year 2? They add a ton of weapons around him. Can he kind of get back maybe close to that Rams level that we saw when they went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think so, honestly. I actually like this Rams team to be better than what most people think. They have some weapons on offense. Even without Jameson Williams, he's going to be nice when he's actually on the field. I still think like Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond is a speedster. You have enough there. And it's going to be like a running offense, right? DeAndre Swift is extremely good. It's nothing but praise on DeAndre Swift. Jamal Williams is a fantastic second running back. And you already talked about their offensive line. I think they have one of the better offensive lines in the league. I do like it. TJ Hawkinson at tight end is a very good tight end. So, I think all the weapons and everything's in place for Jared Goff. They kind of got in a groove at the end of last year. And we also know that, they really like Dan Campbell and this coaching staff. This team is ready to play. Last year when they still weren't good and the games didn't really matter, they put it together down the stretch and they played their best football. So it's really encouraging. I think they make good moves. I think there's weapons there. If Jared Goff can't be successful, it's going to be troublesome. But I think he's going to have a good year. I don't think he'll be elite or great, but I think we're going to see him return to form a little bit. And I think the Lions are going to be a better team than people think.
The facts. I love Dan Campbell's energy too. Just seeing him on a Hard Knocks, the energy that guy brings to the table. Even last year's guys are going to want to play for that guy, right? They're going to play hard. He seems like a dude that really has his players back. But yeah, back to Jared Goff. I do think he'll be a little bit better. They surround him with enough, and then it's year 2 in a system. He kind of got beat up last year, hurt a little bit as well. So it's I expect him to, as you said, I don't expect him to go crazy, go elite, take the Lions to the playoffs, the Super Bowl, do anything wild like that. But I expect him to take a little step forward. I don't know if it'll be good enough to obviously save his job when they can go with a rookie on a rookie contract. in the 2023 draft, but I think he will be better than last year. Everything's there for him to be, and you hit it right on the nail on the head. If he's not better, it's like I don't know where's his spot in the league at that point. Obviously, he'd have probably a backup spot. Maybe he'd probably get another shot somewhere, but it's like hard to project if he can't be at least a step better with the O line, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and then the guys around him. Everything's there for Jared Goff, I'd say.
Not to mention,
go for it.
Not to mention, it's just going to be real run heavy, right? Like they want to feature DeAndre Swift, a lot of Jamal Williams. So it's like it's going to take a lot of the pressure off Jared Goff as well. I feel like he's kind of talked about in some podcasts. It's like trying to go out there and not do too much to feel like you got to win the game, right? Because the Lions weren't very good, so you got to make up for it. So I think when you get most of it running through the running backs, like it sets him up perfectly.
Yep. And he has one of the better young tight ends as well. Hawkinson, I'd like to lean on those guys, right? Quarterbacks that don't really want to attack downfield. He has TJ Hawkinson. That guy's a stud and can really rely on him. So, yeah, I would hope that he can take a little step forward this year. Question 2 for them is, can Aiden Hutchinson really come in and transform their pass rush? They only had 30 sacks in 2021. That was 3rd worst in the league. With a shaky secondary back there, this defense really kind of ride or die on getting to the quarterback. So can Aiden Hutchinson, damn, I'm botching names, can he jump in right away and kind of transform them and push that pass rush above where they were at last year?
They definitely need it, right? Like they struggled last year with the pass rush, and I think they got a phenomenal pass rusher. I like Aiden Hutchinson a lot. I think it feels like a Chase Young pick. Like it's just a no-brainer, honestly. I think he's going to be good right off the bat. I don't want to put like the projection like too high, like not have crazy expectations, but I think he's going to be a very good player in the league for a long time. I think they nailed it. And like he gets to play in Michigan still or in Detroit. Like he doesn't have to leave. So it's like home for him. I think just all the factors go into Aiden Hutchinson. I think it was a great pick. And he has all the tools, right? He's a freak athlete. I think he's just going to be successful right off the bat. And not to mention the Lions need it so bad.
Yeah, I mean, when your secondary is that bad, you go out and you get Aiden Hutchinson. They're leaning on him to be that guy. And I'm with you, right? It felt like it was like the perfect pick. The Michigan guy goes to Detroit, stays at home. I was super shocked. Obviously, I mean, Trayvon Walker doesn't look bad. He actually impressed in his preseason debut with the Jags. But yeah, Hutchinson, it was a home run pick. I like your analysis as well. I think he's going to be good for a while. He kind of just has that hardworking mold. He's going to come in and battle every day. He kind of feels like JJ Watt, to be honest, not to draw like straight comparisons because I don't want to do that on day one. But yeah, that's kind of the feel he gave me. Home run pick. And yeah, he will. I mean, I just think naturally you bring in a guy like that, they're going to need more than 30 sacks. They'll find a way. I don't know how much better it'll be, but Aiden Hutchinson will sure as hell, I think, do his part each and every week for that defense.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. How much is it going to improve the unit as a whole? It feels like impossible to tell, honestly.
Yeah, that's spot on. And then my last question for the Lions, it comes down to the secondary. Jeff Okudah 3 years ago was drafted 3rd overall, hasn't really panned out. He's played 10 games in 2 years and only has 1 interception in those 10 games. Obviously the Achilles last year. So he's coming back. Right now he's, I don't know, way down the depth chart. I imagine they will give him every opportunity to start and kind of keep that job. But can he finally live up to that 3rd overall pick? It's always hit and miss with the corners, right? You can wind up with the Jeff Okudah. You can wind up with the Jalen Ramsey. That's just kind of how it is when you're going that high. We'll see that with Derek Stingley as well from the Texans, where he will go. But can he finally live up to that? He's coming up on the 5th-year option. The Lions are going to have to make a decision after this year. Can Jeff Okudah do something? Can he at least stay on the field?
See, and that's the thing with Okudah. I think a win for him at this point is getting the starter position and being healthy for the full year and just having a good year. I think it's to like the pre-draft and the draft expectations of him going so early and he could be like a all-pro corner and like a star. I think it's going to be really hard to return to those expectations, especially post-injury. I think for Jeff Okudah at this point, it's staying healthy, being a starter for the full year and having not like a great season, but a good one, very productive one. Yeah. It's just really hard to get back to that pre-draft, that pre-draft hype. It feels like that ship has sailed.
Yeah, he is very good at Ohio State. Yeah, I mean, not to be a downer, I just don't think I don't see it. I think we'll be playing with a new team, whether it's next year, whether it's the year after that. It's just tough, man. It's tough, and you're coming off an Achilles injury. You're playing a position that's it's already hard enough to play since you can't touch receivers, and then coming off that, I imagine the speed right off the rip won't be there. So I mean, yeah, I think a W for him would just be staying on the field, right? Playing a complete season, playing 10 games in 2 years is alarming. But I don't think he's going to get back to that where he was pre-draft. I don't think he's going to live up to it. And I think the Lions will eventually move off. I don't think they'll pick up his 5th-year option. But hell, I've been wrong before, but that's just kind of where I feel it playing out. Kind of any closing thoughts this Lions club? I mean, they're up and coming. I'd say a draft or 2 away from Dan Campbell. Hopefully they give Dan Campbell his legitimate, give him the time. We've seen teams, get super impatient when it gets to year 3. Hopefully they don't do that. When I went through the Lions schedule, I have them winning. I think it was like 4-13. I could see them going 5-12. I think I flipped 1 game at the end, but somewhere in that range, like I think I think it'll be a productive year for Dan Campbell. Will kind of establish his system in year 2 and kind of build it up. I don't know if Jared Goff will be the guy going into year 3. I think they'll go quarterback still at the top in 2023. But yeah, I have them winning 4 games. 5 games could be up there. I could see them even shocking and winning 6. I like Dan Campbell's energy. I'm behind that guy.
Yeah, I hear you. I got the Lions a little bit higher. I like their offense. I think Jared Goff's gonna be better than people think. Run heavy, good offensive line, enough receivers. I think there's legitimate potential for this Lions team. I got them going 6-11. I could see them winning 7 or 8 games max. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think they're clearly a step below that. Still, the defense has a lot of work to be done. But I really do like this offensive roster on paper. I think they win 6 games.
Yeah, they're building something. And then, I mean, if they do go quarterback, they can invest in free agency next year and build up some defense. The secondary needs a lot of help. Their front still needs help. But it's up and up for the Lions. It's weird to say that. But Dan Campbell, I think he's building something up. I just hope that the ownership gives him the proper time, like I mentioned, because a lot of these coaches, they don't get the right amount of time and teams just move off. But
the players love playing for him, too. It just feels like the Lions could maybe finally found something.
Exactly. So yeah, let's move into the next team towards the bottom in the NFC North. It's obviously the Chicago Bears. They sack Matt Nagy in the offseason, and then they pull Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. I think I laughed when they did that. I think bad hire. I don't see it as I mentioned. I think towards the end of last year, like it's 2022 football, and it's like you have a rookie quarterback. You're trying to develop that quarterback. Why are you hiring your defensive head coach? Doesn't make any sense. You saw what the Jags did. They went out and get an offensive guy, Doug Peterson. You see everybody's going offense. The Vikings go offense with their head coach. Doesn't make sense. But looking at the roster, the weapons, they still have Darnell Mooney. They have Equanimus St. Brown, N'Keal Harry. They did have him, but I believe he is done for at least half the season, something major ankle injury. The O-line, I mean, just look at it. It doesn't look good. We watched it in action in the first preseason game. Terrible. Still have Cole Kmet. Obviously, Justin Fields, the lone bright spot. Him and David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Probably 3 bright spots. Darnell Mooney's pretty good too. But with that O-line, the O-line's terrible. And then defense, Robert Quinn's there, but I believe he's still holding out. Roquan Smith went on Twitter and said he wants out because they don't respect him and they're lowballing him. Jalen Johnson at corner, they go out and get Jaquan Brisker, and then they bring in Kyler Gordon. They drafted him as well, corner from Washington. I forgot Eddie Jackson is there as well. So, I mean, before we jump into it, I mean, what do you make of this Bears roster? Do you like the Eberflus hire? I think we both laughed at it, but I mean, what do you make of the Bears heading into 2022?
Feels very much like a Chicago Bears team, not to hate on them, but like I was more excited on paper for the Bears, like new coaching staff, Justin Fields, because Matt Nagy was just so atrocious. But then, like as I dive into their schedule and I really look at their roster, like I'm not crazy about the Eberflus hire. I'm not going to speak too negative on him because like let's give the man a chance at least. He got the position right. Let's give him a chance before we just crush him because I think it's gonna happen. I don't think they're gonna have a great year. As I dive in and look at this roster, it's just like there's not a ton of weapons. I'm not totally sold on Justin Fields. Obviously, he hasn't had a real chance to show his talent at all. But like this offensive line is not great. I think he's going to get hit a lot this year. I'm not sold on the coaching staff. I don't think there's enough weapons. I don't I don't have a lot of positive things about this Bears team. I don't think they're going to be very good this year.
Nope. And then and it's like the OC, Luke Getzey, never heard of him. Like I couldn't tell you. Maybe somebody will pop in and be like, yeah, he did this. He has this track record. I've never heard of him. So it's like weird. It's you go out, you can get the defensive guy, but if you get the O coordinator, it has to be like a home run guy, I think. And yeah, the Bears didn't do that. You know, I mean, the Bears are living in 2008. They think it's Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs football. And it's just not, man. It's that ownership, prehistoric. But first question for the Bears: are they straight up wasting Justin Fields' development? You said you're not sold. I think it's unfair to Justin Fields. I mean, that O-line is that bad. The weapons really aren't amazing. Darnell Mooney, I mean, he's good, but he's not an absolute stud. When you go out and watch teams like the Dolphins go out and get guys like Tyreek Hill, and they have Jalen Waddle, right? You watch these other teams make moves to surround their young guys with serious offensive weapons. And then you look at Justin Fields, he's kind of stuck in Chicago with a terrible O-line, subpar weapons, I'd say. So are they wasting Justin Fields' development?
I most likely, yeah, they're not doing him justice at all. I don't like the offensive line. There's not enough weapons. The coaching staff, I'll give them a shot, but we'll see. It's hard to see, right? We see so many times with, especially in the NFL with young quarterbacks, it's all about where you're drafted in the situation, right? Some are lucky enough to go in like to better organizations where they clearly are supported, and there's others where they're expected to uplift the organization at a young age and they don't exactly have it. And this is just one of those situations where I think Justin Fields would have been better served somewhere else, but like this is what it is. It's where he's at. I definitely do think the Bears are botching it.
Yeah, he's screwed. Like there's no other way to put it. He's so screwed. And it's like, I don't know. I just see people rip him, and it's like that. I watched that O-line in a preseason game, and they're just so bad. I watched that O-line last year. It's like who would be good behind that is the real question. Like nobody. I don't see any other quarterback. He just kind of, he got unlucky. As you mentioned, you get guys like Trey Lance that get blessed and get sent to Kyle Shanahan. And then, you get the Justin Fields and they get sent to the dungeon, and then bang, it kind of it almost destroys their career. But I mean, I think the Bears, I think they're wasting his development. They're kind of wasting his rookie contract too by not stacking the deck and finding ways to add to the roster. You know what I mean? I don't like what they're doing. I didn't like the defensive head coach. It kind of sucks to be Justin Fields. I'm not a big Ohio State guy. I wasn't really a huge fan of him at Ohio State, but when he went off against Clemson, I was like, okay, this is like the guy. I've been criticizing this guy for so long, and then bang, the playoff game against Clemson, I was like, shit, like here's the guy, like this is who to be excited about. But then he gets sent to this, and it's like you get 0.1 seconds to throw the football, and guys are falling over each other, and it looks like a peewee game. So it's tough. I think they're botching it.
And the thing with other young like rosters and like quarterbacks is like you could see in the offseason that they're like actively trying to improve. Like it's hard for me to see where like the Bears are much better this year than they were last year.
Oh, that's facts. And that's really my second question. Their offensive line improvements, they did very little. They didn't really do anything when you look at it. And they looked awful in the preseason game one. Is there any, are they going to be any better week one, when it gets to September and it's week one, are they going to be any better, or is it that bad? I think it's just that bad. I mean, I'll go ahead and cut him even before you go. I just think they're going to be that atrocious again. And I can't imagine if somebody gets hurt and like, you're not good enough to be on this starting five on the O-line. You're one of the backups. Like you're not better than the dudes that already suck. So you get the second round guys that just feels bad. When you look at Tevin Jenkins, they drafted last year, pretty bad. I don't think they're going to be any better up front.
It just makes me feel bad for Justin Fields because, like, I'll go the opposites and say they'll be a little bit better, but it's not because I got faith in this unit. It's because they were so bad last year, right? You have organizations like Cincinnati that have been known to not be good or going out and making big moves and trying to fix things. It's just like it's not that the Bears didn't get it done. It just feels like they're not even trying, honestly, at times. It's just I'd be very frustrated if I was a Bears fan. It's hard to see the positive here. I think the offensive line is still going to struggle, not be good. It's like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, that is the true question. What are they doing? Because we watch teams at least make attempts, go out, spend some money, build up, and then there's the Chicago Bears. But last question, not at all about their offense or their offensive line or Justin Fields. It's gonna be over to Matt Eberflus's defense. That's what he is, defensive coordinator. Robert Quinn, obviously, I mentioned, is holding out. He wants a contract. Roquan Smith basically asked out on Twitter. Yeah, what do their futures look like? You think either of those guys get moved? And really, yeah, can the defense be there, right? The defense is the only shot that team somehow does anything special. So, I mean, do you see either of those guys getting moved? And yeah, what do you see for their defense in 2022?
It's hard. It's hard for me to see them getting moved. I feel like they'll get paid, honestly. That one's hard for me. I'm gonna lean that they stay on the team. And if they do, like, they have some good pieces defensively, and this is what Eberflus is supposed to be doing, right? Make the defense pretty good. On paper, the defense is like the one bright spot. They have a chance to be really good, but they got to get those two guys back first. I'm not even extremely confident they can do that. I feel like they will. But I mean, the defense could be pretty good. The issue with that is, I think, like we were talking about it in our last preview, this offense is not going to be very good, right? And I think the defense will be on the field a lot. So even if this defense, like, they do get their studs back and they are playing pretty well, I think it's like one of those things where they'll just be on the field for too long and they'll eventually give up points, or they'll eventually make mistakes. And it's just the Bears offensive unit is just not very good. So I think the defense has the potential to be all right, but even if they are, the offense will bring them down.
Yeah, I think at some point they need to find a way. Give Roquan Smith whatever he wants. The guy's a solid linebacker. Robert Quinn is a weird one, though, right? Because he's 32 years old. Obviously, he had 18 and a half sacks. So it's like, is he going to produce at that level again? We watched 2020, he only had 2 sacks. 2019, he had 11 and a half. So it's like, it's Jekyll and Hyde. Obviously, he was so good last year, but it's like, as a front office, this is one where I could see them. I don't know if I'm trying to put that much money into a 32-year-old pass rusher, to be honest. It's kind of weird. They're that bad. It's like, where else is the money? If you're not going to put it into the O-line, you might as well spend it somewhere. But I would kind of be balking. I don't know what Robert Quinn wants, but Roquan Smith, if they trade Roquan Smith, they might as well, I don't know, trade Justin Fields as well. They might as well just reset the entire thing, because Roquan Smith, he's a stud. I like him a lot. But yeah, the defense as a whole, it's just going to be so hard when your offense is that bad. They're going to be on the field for so many snaps, and we talked about this last time with the AFC North, right? Some of these teams with quarterback issues, O-line issues. When your offense is that bad and your defense just keeps having to trot out, they get beat up, they get worn down, and it'll bring them down because they're on the field so much. And that's kind of the situation the Bears are going to be in.
And I'm interested to where they are, like, in the organization, like how they feel like in-house, right? Because Robert Quinn being older, signing him or not, I also think it depends. Like, what is the organization? Are they self-aware? Like, where the people inside running it, where do they actually think they are offensively? Like, if they feel like Justin Fields can, like, elevate the team and they have some weapons and they could maybe do something, I feel like they're more inclined to sign Robert Quinn. But if they are more like, oh, I think we're going to struggle and not be good, they'd be less inclined. So, like, where is their self-awareness? Because some teams, they don't have it. They fully believe, even, they're not very good, that they have something. So I'm curious to what the Bears actually think.
Yeah, you got me, dude. The Bears are probably morons. They probably think they did a damn good job building up this roster and they got a legitimate shot. Yeah, I don't.
Which probably bodes well for Robert Quinn.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't yet. It has not paid off for him yet. I mean,
right.
We'll see. I'm on the other end. I would not. I don't know if I pay him, because I feel like you can just trade him for something and then go out and get a young guy, right? There's no reason. You're not one Robert Quinn away. This team is that bad. And yeah, but the front office could be a joke. All in all, I have nothing left for the Chicago Bears. It's going to be another long season in Chicago. Hopefully, draft season 2023, that's usually an exciting time when your team's that bad. But yeah, when I went through the Bears, I had them winning, I think, 3 ball games. It could be 2. I just think, I don't know. I watched that preseason game. I usually don't put a ton of credence, but when I watched the O-line just falling over each other like bowling pins, And it just already, right? Like we're in this, they can't even be good. Usually the real bad teams, right? They can fake it for the preseason and be at least decent and be like, damn, dude, this O-line, like they're good. They're gonna be better. Nah, they're right. They're in mid-season form. That's what we say. So yeah, 3 ball games. I could see it being 2. Tough year for Eberflus. He's gonna get ripped by Chicago media, obviously big football city. Yeah, it sucks. They're not gonna be good. They're gonna be worse than the Lions. They could be one of the worst teams in football, I think.
I think confidently they'll be worse than the Lions. Like the Lions are in an upward trend. I can see what they're doing. I got the Bears winning 4 games. I think they're definitely the worst team in the NFC North. They finished last place, 4-13.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's move on. Let's get out of Chicago. Next team on the list. We finally get into some decent football teams, some teams that actually make good offseason moves and good offseason decisions. We move on to the Minnesota Vikings. They obviously bring in Kevin O'Connell to replace Mike Zimmer. I like that higher offensive guy to pair him with Kirk Cousins and kind of try to get Kirk Cousins over that hump. He was pretty good last year, but it's like always the Kirk Cousins can't win the big ones, right? And then his teams always come up short. Obviously, they come back with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, absolute stud. KJ Osborne out there as well in the slot. Irv Smith, I'm interested to see if he can actually stay on the field. I liked him a ton at Alabama, super athletic, but injuries catch up with you. And then Dalvin Cook, Alex Madison in the backfield. And then defensively, Zadarius Smith, they go out, snag him from Green Bay. That's kind of a big in-division snag to add to the pass rush. Daniil Hunter's still there. Eric Kendricks in the middle, and then the secondary, it's kind of old. Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith, guys that are getting old. You got Cameron Dantzler, damn, watching that, and Chandon Sullivan. So, I mean, what do you make of the Minnesota Vikings on paper, at least right now?
I like this Minnesota Vikings team quite a bit, honestly. Bringing in Kevin O'Connell, offensive guy. Love the weapons. Kirk Cousins coming back. He's a career 59-2, right? Mr. 500. The other Mr. 500, Eli Manning, won 2 Super Bowls. So like, you never know, like this team is capable. Like it's all about Kirk Cousins in the big games, right? That's the narrative around him right now. I think he has a real chance to crush that narrative this season. I like the coaching change a lot for Kirk Cousins in the offense. And then defensively is the addition of Zadarius Smith. I think I love their linebacking core. Their secondary worries me a little bit because it is older guys, but that's like a double-edged sword. They're also vets and they know a lot of high football IQ, that kind of stuff. Like they know little things and make adjustments, and those could be real driving forces for them as well. So like I like this Vikings team a lot on paper. In theory, they could be anybody in the league. Like it's going to be an exciting year for Minnesota.
Yeah, I like him as well. As I mentioned off the top right at the beginning, when Justin Jefferson said he enjoys this system. This is system guys are going to want to play in. There's something there, and really, that's my first question: is Kevin O'Connell, is that the missing link to kind of push them ahead? Is he the guy to get Kirk Cousins over the hump into the playoffs and kind of maybe make a run at this thing? As you mentioned, guys like Eli Manning have won Super Bowls. Kirk Cousins on paper, when you just look at raw numbers, it's been pretty good. He just can't get over that hump, and could have been a little bit of Mike Zimmer when you're a defensive coach and your defenses suck. That'll kind of plague you. But they have everything on offense with O'Connell and Kirk Cousins. Is he finally going to get Kirk over the hump? I also realized that Anthony Barr is not there anymore on defense. So I think he went to the Cowboys, but he was with Minnesota for a while. But yeah, so Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins, is that the missing link?
I think it is actually. Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins, they had a working relationship, but I feel like they didn't like truly like each other, and like there's a little animosity there. And to be fair to Kirk Cousins, like Minnesota was known with Mike Zimmer for having a really good defense. The Case Keenum year where they made a run, that was like they had a really good defense and the offense just kind of managed. So in theory, it was the next season they added Kirk. They thought Kirk would be that missing link. And then right when Kirk got there, the offense elevated and the defense dropped off and never really returned to form. So I think that the Minnesota just kind of rode into that identity switch, and like, yeah, they still have a good defense and like really good players, and they can make key plays for sure. I think they're leaning into the offensive identity, and I think that's the key, right? They have elite weapons all around. Justin Jefferson is a number one, like once in a lifetime receiver. He's phenomenal right off the bat. Dalvin Cook at running back. So yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell is the missing link, right? If him and Kirk Cousins get on the same page, Kirk is, like we said, you look at the numbers, he's been good, he's been efficient. There's just something there missing in the big games. I think they're closer than they are farther away. Like I think Minnesota's got it. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to be a missing piece. I have them making the playoffs this year. I think they're a wild card team. So like I'm speaking highly on Minnesota. I'm buying a lot of Minnesota stock.
No, I like where they are as well. Mike Zimmer always seems like an asshole, to be honest. Yeah, him and Kirk Cousins never seemed like the dynamic duo. And I mean, this is the first shot, right? We'll see a guy pulled off the McVay tree. Their McVay gets hyped up. We'll see if guys that get plucked off his tree are on that level. But yeah, I think it will be. I like Kirk Cousins enough on the field. It's just what can you do when it matters? And I think Kevin O'Connell, his scheme will unlock that a little bit, push them to another win or two, kind of get there. And then I obviously love Justin Jefferson. Was pissed when the Eagles didn't get him. Knew he's going to be a stud. The O-line concerns me a little bit up front. Pass blocking wise, but when you got Dalvin Cook, they'll probably run it, mix it up, a lot of motion in there. And yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell kind of is that missing link. It kind of went sour with Zimmer at the end. And as I mentioned, if you're a defensive head coach and your defense sucks, what are you really doing out there? So yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell will be the real deal. He will help Kirk Cousins get over the hump. And then second question is, you mentioned it as well, the secondary is old. When I see guys, Patrick Peterson's old, Harrison Smith's old. Did they improve enough? It was kind of their front's been decent, but their secondary, I believe they just got roasted a ton last year. So did they do enough? They went out, they get drafted Andrew Booth, Lewis Seen. Hopefully I said that right. He's from Georgia, safety. So they went out and drafted guys. Don't know if they'll jump in right away, but I mean, do they have enough back there? And did they improve enough from last year?
So that's definitely the unit that worries me, right? Their secondary. Anytime you draft someone from Georgia, I'm a fan, dude. The Georgia boys are tearing up the league right now. So that's a nice draft pick. And I do think they improved, but like it was really the addition of Zadarius Smith, right? I think he's going to be a big key. And if he can get some more pressure on the quarterback and do that, it'll improve the secondary because it takes pressure off the secondary. So I do think they'll be better, but like that's 100% the unit that worries me. Like they got torched a lot last year. Harrison Smith and Peterson are getting older. I don't know if they are really it anymore. They're still good players, but they are improved. And I think Zadarius Smith is going to help a lot as well, but like it worries me for sure.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, yeah, I don't know with the rookies. I can't really project rookies, but on paper, their secondary is definitely the concern spot. I don't know if they made enough improvements, but as you said, if you go out and get Zadarius Smith and he can attack the quarterback and do that job, and Daniil Hunter can get back and do what he's used to doing to kind of, you can mask that secondary. But yeah, I definitely don't like trotting out old Pat P, old Harrison Smith. In 2022, right? Bringing them back, it just seems like another run of the mill. I don't know, a lot of miles on the tires out there.
They also are going to need good coverage from just their linebackers. They have a good linebacking core, so like that's an edge there too. But like they're going to need the pressure in the linebackers to take off the pressure in the back because yeah, the secondary is going to struggle probably.
For sure. And then do you think the O-line, last question is, do you think the O-line will be better? Pro Football Focus rated them 23rd overall last year, and Brian O'Neill at right tackle was the only lineman to have a pass block grade above a 65. So pass blocking seemed like an issue last year. And will the scheme change? Obviously, if there's a lot of motion, getting the ball out quick, that can kind of mess that up. Christian Darrisaw was pretty good in his rookie year. So yeah, will this unit be better than 23rd up front? It kind of will definitely ease things up on Kirk Cousins and the entire group as a whole if that unit kind of stands out and takes a step in Kevin O'Connell's first year.
I think you kind of nailed it already. I think they are going to be improved and better, and I think it's the coaching switch and the scheme switch offensively, because you can do things to cover up your weaker units, right? We've seen it all the time with Bill Belichick over the years when they had that run with Brady. Like they had some offensive lines that weren't good. They always adjusted. They switched their offense to get releasing the ball fast. And like, I think that's the thing. Like they're speaking highly of Kevin O'Connell's system. And I think that's going to help cover it up a lot, whether it's pre-snap motion, get the ball out quick, or just, some different design looks. I think it's going to be improved. I don't think there'll be an elite offensive line or anything like that, but I definitely think it will be improved.
Yeah, they'll do the job. I'm with you as well. They'll do the job. The scheme fit, I imagine. We didn't really get to see it because Kirk Cousins got COVID and didn't play the preseason game 1, so we didn't kind of get to see full of anything. But yeah, I think there'll be enough there with O'Connell's scheme. I expect it to be similar to McVay's, where the pre-snap motion, they'll get the ball out of Kirk's hands quick enough to mask up that O-line. As you mentioned, it's pretty spot on. The good coaches can mask up the weak areas. So we'll sure as hell find out in 3 weeks if Kevin O'Connell's scheme is legit and can mask up a little bit. I mean, they're not a terrible O-line. They're not a Bears O-line. They're just not elite, especially when it comes to pass blocking. But Minnesota Vikings, that's all I got for them. When I went through, I had them going 10-7. I could at least easily see them being 11-6. I think they surely should be in the playoffs. So Vikings fans can rejoice. O'Connell was the missing link, gets you into what I call the tournament. Everybody will be 0-0 in the playoffs. And then from there, it's what can Kirk Cousins do in the playoffs? But yeah, so 10-7, 11-6 range for the Vikings. I like what they have there, and I like the hire of Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. I got them finishing 11-6, second in the division. I do think they will make the playoffs. I think they're a wild card team. They definitely have the potential to make noise of the NFC. Like anything could happen with this team. They're that good. But I do think they have some holes in the secondary. Their defense is not quite elite. And I think that will end up showing why they're like a notch below the like top elite teams in the NFC. But I still think great year, 11-6, wild card spot.
Facts. And I also went 10-7 because I still feel that Kirk Cousins is that guy that's going to lose one random game that everybody just projects them. Like the whole world has them winning. And like, he's still that guy to lose that. Although his stats wouldn't say that. He still has a little bit of that in him. But let's move on to the last team in the NFC North. Obviously the Green Bay Packers, they just re-up Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. He gets the biggest contract. I think biggest quarterback contract of all time. They obviously re-up. I believe they re-signed Matt LaFleur as well. So you got a contract, but then you look at it, it looks a lot different. Allen Lazard's the number 1 wide receiver right now. Sammy Watkins is on the other side. He's made of glass. We'll see if he can even make it to the field. Randall Cobb's still there, obviously one of Aaron's good buddies. And then they go out, they draft Christian Watson and Romeo Dubs. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. Then obviously Robert Tonyan, and then their running backs the same. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon coming back. Defensive side of the ball, Kenny Clark, Jerron Reed up front, Preston Smith, Devondre Campbell. They drafted Quay Walker, another Georgia guy, and then Rashawn Gary as well. Obviously the big loss on defense is Zadarius Smith, who went to a division rival. So that should be super interesting when they play, right? A guy that goes just right across to the division rival, and they even play week 1. And then the secondary, Jair Alexander, Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas, who kind of stood out last year, took that step forward, which is weird because Buddy couldn't do that when he was wearing Eagles green. Glad to see you're doing it when you wear the Packers gear. But yeah, how do you feel about the Packers going into 2022? I'll just drop the first question as well. Might as well. What do you make of Aaron Rodgers' new weapons without Devante Adams? Yeah, how do you feel about the Packers? And then what do you think about Rodgers' kind of new get up out there at wide receiver?
Yeah, so I like this Packers team a lot. Obviously, their wide receiver unit is interesting this year, but like they're relying on, number 12, that Hall of Famer, to elevate them. And I actually think it's a good idea because this team is very, very good. I like their defense a lot. I love their secondary. I like their pass rush. They have the potential to be the best defense in the league. I don't think that's crazy to say. Like the Quay Walker pick as well. And then offensively, so the one weak spot of this out of these two units is the receiving core, but you got the Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers. I think the idea is that he's going to elevate his receivers. And I think building chemistry with multiple guys throughout the year can be a real positive for him because the offensive lines can be very good. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, very strong running game. They're going to do their thing. But like we saw against the Niners, he was so heavy and focused on Devante Adams. I feel like it ended up being like a downside, right? I think this year not having a true elite number 1 where Aaron just is going to have to spread the ball around and then rely on his run game, which I think is going to be fine. Like, I think we're going to have a very, very good offense again. And I think it could actually serve to be a positive thing because Aaron's not focused on getting just his star receiver the ball. He'll spread it around. I think it could end up being an actually like more dangerous offense. So like, I still really like this Packers team a lot. They are right there. Would not surprise me if they represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I'm not picking them because Aaron has a hard time getting there, but like the sky's the limit. This team is very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Pack. They actually, when I look at them on paper, like they didn't get obviously they got worse at receiver when you lose probably the best guy in the game, but like they didn't get that much worse. I think it was like an overreaction. I don't know. Maybe I was reading too much into Twitter, but I mean, you look at the roster and it's still there. It's like if you can spark any of those guys at wide receiver, any of the rookies, kind of find a connection. Now, will Aaron Rodgers do that? Who knows? He likes to throw bullets at people. They drop them, and then he never throws to you the rest of the game. So, right, it's a lot of hypotheticals and a lot of trusting Aaron Rodgers to be a different guy as a person on the field to spread the ball and really build that chemistry. Where will he find, I don't know, Alan Lazard and just say, okay, well, you're the new guy I'm going to lock into and do that. But yeah, when I look at the wide receivers out there, as long as 12's throwing the ball, I'm not super worried. He'll find ways to get them the ball. He'll get the ball out of his hands and do enough. I don't know how good of a unit they'll be, obviously. But as long as Aaron Rodgers, as you mentioned, Hall of Famers throwing the ball, should be good enough. They still have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon out of the backfield. The O-line is still solid. David Bakhtiari coming back fully healthy should be. That'll be a big addition to that O-line instead of him trotting out last year, still coming off the knee issues and trying to force him into like a playoff atmosphere. That was weird. But yeah, I mean, I'm not jumping for joy looking at the wide receivers, but I think as long as Aaron Rodgers is slinging the rock, as I've mentioned probably 3 times in this spiel, I feel good about it. But yeah, I mean, looking at the roster is still there. Everything is there for the Packers. But you mentioned Aaron Rodgers that gets to the playoffs. Who the hell knows? He turns into a different guy. I call him a QBR whore. It's just like he won't take risks because he just builds up the QBR, and I don't know why. It seems he's that type of guy, but we'll see. I mean, they didn't get that much worse now looking at them. Looking at them, the only really thing that questions me on defense is kind of the secondary depth as well. If one guy, we've seen how like fragile secondaries are in football, right? One guy goes down, somebody tweaks a hammy, somebody pulls a groin, kind of what's coming out behind them. We already saw Jair Alexander. He was hurt last year. So it could happen at any time. What do you make of the depth kind of behind those guys behind that front? The starters are solid, elite secondary, but if somebody pulls a groin, are you trusting Vernon Scott to come out there and make a play?
I'm personally not. No, the secondary does worry me. Or the depth for the secondary does worry me because, like, if these guys are on the field and they're all healthy, like, I love this secondary. I think it's a very good secondary. The depth is not great, but I think it's one of those things where, like, they have enough talent offensively or defensively, that, like, if they do have injuries, it's not necessarily fully relying on, say, a Vernon Scott. It's more of like, maybe you rely on you do a little more rush, rely on the pass rush a little bit more, lean on the linebackers a little bit more. But I just think like they have enough talent all around that if it's just one or two, like they'll be okay. But like, yeah, I mean, the depth does worry me if it is kind of thin. If they do get hurt, they could be troublesome. But man, if they're on the field, though, this defense is healthy. I think it could be the best in the league.
Yeah, I love the starters, the depth. Yeah, the depth is surely concerning, especially when it gets colder in Green Bay and guys get banged up. It's freezing cold up there. It's a little scary, but I mean, it's not something I don't like to forecast the entire secondary getting destroyed like the Ravens did, or like any. I mean, I've seen multiple Eagles years where we get destroyed, but yeah, I mean, there is enough. If one guy goes down, they can just turn up the pass rush. You still have Rashawn Gary. You still have guys up front that should be able to get to the quarterback, and then obviously on the other side of the ball, when you have Aaron Rodgers, he can kind of help your defense as well. He's good enough to keep drives going, make plays, and find ways. So yeah, secondary depth is concerning, but I don't like to forecast injuries. Last question is, will Matt LaFleur, now with kind of the wide receivers, they don't really have that guy at wide receiver. Will they finally rely more on the Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon combo, maybe run the ball, go a little bit more run heavy behind that O-line instead of kind of sling it, take a little bit off of Aaron Rodgers' shoulders this year?
100%. I think so. I think it's going to be much more run heavy. And then like let Aaron Rodgers pick and choose his moments, right, where he takes shots. I think there's going to be heavily relied on Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, a little bit of pre-snap motion. But yeah, I 100% think this is going to be a run heavy offense. And I think it's going to be an extremely good one too. I just love the idea of Aaron Rodgers being forced to spread the ball around. That just sounds extremely deadly to me. You could hone in on Devante Adams and yeah, they would still usually beat you because they're so great. But I think the idea of him having to spread the ball around, two really good running backs, a good tight end, I think this could be a phenomenal offense to go with this defense. So it's I honestly really like this Green Bay team again.
Yeah, no, I think they have to use a little bit more running just because you don't have that guy out wide like Devante Adams to break down a secondary to hone on. So that I think just naturally, I don't know how much Aaron Rodgers will enjoy that, right? I mean, he'd come up to the line and audible every play and we could never know. And it just do his thing. But I think the smart thing, I think Matt LaFleur will try to go a little bit more run heavy. You got Aaron Jones for dirt cheap. AJ Dillon, obviously, he's a physical beast. So they're smart, use the running game. And then, as you mentioned, just pick your shots because you don't really have a guy that's going to burn defenses or he's unguardable like Devante Adams was. I mean, it was just the back shoulder fade to Devante Adams is unstoppable. I don't think you're going to have that same connection with Allen Lazard, no offense. So I think they're going to be forced, and it'll be super interesting to see Aaron Rodgers kind of without that guy. I don't know how much spreading the ball around he's going to do. On paper he has to spread the ball around, but Aaron Rodgers seems like a stubborn individual. He's a goofy dude. He's got weirder and weirder as the years go on, so it'll be fascinating to see if he actually does and how much will he actually if LaFleur says we're going to run the ball more and kind of play more methodical football, because I think that is the smarter thing for them to do without Devante Adams in this offense. But it's something to look at. When I went through the Packers schedule, I had them winning the division 12-5. I don't think the wide receivers, I don't think it's a huge issue in the regular season. Aaron Rodgers is good enough to win regular season games. The defense is good enough. They'll win games in the regular season just off of that. So I had them going 12-5. They're back in the dance, and we'll see once again if Aaron Rodgers, when he gets in the playoffs, what he can do. I know Twitter will be ready. The world will be ready to roast him if they lose in round one.
The memes are always fire when they don't perform. But I love this team, honestly. I think they're a top 2 to 3 team in the NFC. They could easily represent them in the Super Bowl. I have them going 12-5, winning the NFC North. I think they're going to be viable for the best defense in the league, heavy run game, and which is crazy to say because then on top of that, it's Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking. I think this Green Bay team can be very, very good. 12-5.
Yeah, facts. 12-5. We match on a record division champ. Any kind of closing thoughts on the NFC North before we kind of wrap this up and get out of here?
I'm just excited to see Vikings going to be better than we think. Detroit will be better than we think. And God knows what happens with Chicago.
Yeah, I feel bad. Yeah, pray for Justin Fields. But yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this episode. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you have any feedback, drop it in the comments. Add us on Twitter. We love that. As always, Spotify link will be in the description of this video if you're audio only, and we'll be back at it next week for, I believe we're going double NFC. We'll be doing the NFC West next week just to save the AFC West for the finale. That seems like the division that's built up. All the moves happen. So next week will be the NFC West, and the following week we will wrap it up with the AFC West.